This up. There we go. Good. We got the light up. Good. I want to make sure I had the light up. Hey, everybody. Sorry about that. It's been a long day, but this is United versus Everybody. I am your host, Sean, and this is the Manchester United fan channel that is for you, built by you, powered by you, sustained by you, and just really grown by you. This is your channel. Like I always say, I'm just here to put out the topics and stir the pot and let you guys give me your opinions. So I do appreciate you guys for getting involved, growing the channel, engaging in the chats and everything. We are on the road to 2K subscribers. We are up to almost 1,300, I believe, right before I went live. So appreciate that. That's exciting. And like I said, we'll be doing some more giveaways when we hit that 2K mark. I've already done a couple. I'm so glad to do more. It's just about show my appreciation. So thank you guys for that. A little bit of an interesting topic today, if you guys couldn't tell by the thumbnail. Look at that. We already got Patrick, hey guys, and Danny getting involved in the chat. Welcome back, guys. So I was talking with someone the other day. We had a little mini back and forth, and I think somebody on the one of the live chats the other day kind of mentioned it. I think someone's comment was like, no, we need to be going for the league, not the trophies kind of thing. But it got me thinking, and I was talking the other day with somebody regarding priorities. Specifically Manchester United's priorities, Erik tenhag's priorities. As fans, what are priorities for the season? Is it the league, as in where we finish and maybe our form, or is it trophies? It's an interesting question to put out there, right? Both are important, but really the trophies are the ultimate goal. Winning is the ultimate goal. Winning your league it's all part of the ultimate goal, right? But it's nearly impossible for a club to win it all in a single season. It would be great, but it's just impossible. So then again, it becomes about priorities, and your priorities for a club in a given season are going to change in accordance with a variety of different factors and different circumstances and different contexts, right? So like, for instance, like injuries are going to kind of impact where your priorities lie. Where you are in your rebuild process as a club is going to impact where your priorities lie. Transfer window, maybe how that went, is going to impact that. Whether or not you have a new manager, sometimes we're a little lenient on new managers, right? The strength of the other squads in your leagues, or other clubs, sorry. If you're in a league like the Premier League, where now it used to be the top four, now it's the big six and stuff, you kind of temper your expectations to some degree in some way. But then also, just who you're challenging for those things. So yeah, like Danny says, quality, squad depth. There's a lot of things that go in there, your tactics, all that stuff. But again, that's pretty much the definition of priorities, right? Where do your efforts and your focus lie in the context of all these kind of factors? It's okay to kind of be ever changing a little bit as new information and new situations come up. Like our priority last season probably changed at United just because of all the injuries. We had to be a little bit more realistic about our expectations and things. And so I think the priority last season is just no more injuries. And almost this season too, right? But again, this does bring us back to our original question that I wanted to put out to you all today and kind of share some of my thoughts and get some of yours. What should Erik ten Hag and Manchester United prioritize this season? League, trophies. Admirably running the 38-game marathon that is the Premier League season and then pushing for a top four spot is an impressive feat, right? But also putting out strong sides in cup competitions and to kind of dominate those and lift a trophy or even two by the end of the season is not an easy task as well, right? That's a big feat in itself. So I want to explore both sides of the argument. I want you guys to let me know what your priorities are going to be. Try to hold off on the full opinion until the end because I got a lot to go through. So before we do get into that, hit that like button for me. Hit the subscribe if you haven't yet. Again, we are so close to 1,300 on the road to 2K. It's right down here in the corner if you can't see it, the little subscribe button. So go ahead and check that out. Totally free, helps the channel. What do you guys say? Danny B, top 5, Europa should be the top target. Yeah, we talked a little bit about that too in the expectations. I wanted to go a little bit more on that tonight. Again, either or. So like the video, subscribe. Let's get stuck in. So let's talk about cup competitions first. Because we all want trophies, right? Trophies, I mean, that's why we're here, right? That's why you get involved in sports. You want to lift trophies. So In this context, we're not talking about the Premier League trophy. We're just talking about the cup competitions right now. And in a perfect world, we'd be doing the quadruple every year. We'd be dominating England, dominating Europe, and dominating the world, right, Pinky? You know, legends will get that reference. But this isn't FC 24 on amateur difficulty. You know, this is real life. Quadruples just never happen, right? Liverpool were shouting about it a couple years ago, and that ball fell apart. So it is what it is. But still, a trophy is a stellar addition to your club's season and to your club's trophy cabinet. Spurs, sorry. I'm allergic to failure. Sorry about that. But Manchester United, that being said, are among the elite when it does come to trophy history. If you guys aren't fully aware of that, I'm gonna show you what it looks like when your club has some trophies. Hold on a second. I took some of these last time I was there. I'm gonna show these on the screen here. So if there's any Spurs fans watching, this is what trophies look like. As you can see, we've got a couple of Premier League trophies in there. We've got some shields. We've got a couple of Champions Leagues, a Europa League in there. And then when I go down to the next slide, we got all this funness laid out for you right there. That's what a trophy cabinet looks like. United is among the elite for trophies. So if you guys have ever gotten to do like this stadium tour or anything, you do get to go check out all the trophies and stuff. So, but Spurs fans, that is what a trophy cabinet is supposed to look like. So just in case anybody was wondering. And so when it comes to trophies, we know that Ten Hag has a habit of kind of clutching at the trophies that he's won at United. And to be honest, he's not wrong, right? Trophies, again, are, after all, are the point of the sport, right? To win things. Heck, I've used his cup wins in the last 2 seasons, right? 3 finals, 2 trophies in his first 2 seasons. I've used that to defend him against the Ten Hag out crowd. But again, like I said the other day after that Liverpool match, we can say it as fans. That's our kind of apologetic, our Manchester United apologetics. As the manager, though, he's got to be able to move on and kind of not get so hung up on those things and not be clinging to that, because it's going to keep him from really progressing in some ways. He's got to be able to push forward. He's got to be able, as a manager, say, okay, trophy's down, that one's done, let's move forward now. Stop looking back at those things. Again, we can say it, you can't, Erik. So with that being said, though, one does wonder if another FA Cup or even winning the Europa League will be enough to save his job if we finish like 8th place in the league again, right? So as I've said, it's not an easy task to lift a trophy. It does require more than having just good players or good tactics, but is it as important this season for us as the league? Nick says, I heard a handyman was called to make the trophy cabinet bigger. Yeah, maybe Spurs have theirs on retainer and he's just not been working. We can get him over to give him actual work. And so trophies, cups, what are you guys thinking? Is it going to be enough to get an FA Cup? I don't think the Carabao Cup's going to do it for me anymore. I'd almost argue that dependent, like if we get like top 4 in the FA Cup, is that enough for you? If we get like top 4 and we get the Europa League, if we get like 7th and we win the Europa League, is that going to be 7th and FA Cup's not going to do it for me. Like it has to be top 4 and a trophy in that regard. But we're going to keep going here. So we're going to talk about the league now. One of the best indicators of a club's progress in terms of a rebuild or in terms of a manager really starting to make it click in terms of like tactics and things like that and kind of motivating his players. One of the best indicators of that, the best way to measure that, is league performance, where you finish, how you do. You know, do you go on these runs? Do you not lose it in the dying minutes? Do you pull points against your top rivals and things like that? That's a good measure, right? Unlike some cup competitions where you only have a handful of matches, really like 6-7 matches, and then maybe a few lucky draws. I mean, you could get to a final. You can get to the FA Cup final by drawing like Oldham and like we played Coventry in the semifinal. It's not a disrespect to Coventry, but that's kind of what I mean. Granted, we did beat Liverpool and City to win it, so I'm not gonna like belittle our progress, but I'm just pointing out, you know, for the longest time, Man City and the Carabao Cup were getting these really easy draws. So even the Champions League, you can get all the way to the Champions League final without really having to play anyone of note based on the draw. And so that is why I've always felt like the league is a little bit more of an impressive feat, right? There's nowhere to hide in your domestic league, though, right? For the Premier League, it's 38 matches. You play everybody twice, home and away. It's a test of endurance. It's a test of focus. It's a test of mentality, of just physical fitness. It's a test. It's a marathon. And I don't mean like a mile, half mile. I mean, this is a full-on, like full-blown marathon. But again, we did knock out Liverpool and City to lift the cup. Just saying. Danny says, top 4 maybe this year, finish 5th. Can we get a Champions League? I don't know. It's going to depend on how clubs do in the Champions League, right? How English clubs do, because isn't that what kind of dictates the coefficient, right? Is how well you do. I think the fact that like Villa and whatnot didn't do well last year is why we missed out on that. But we got Europa League, so we're in a competition. I'd rather be in it than not in it. But again, it's context, right? If you don't have the squad, if we were riddled with injuries like we were last year, it would almost be better for us not. But at the same time, that's where you get into that whole other debate. Like, you're like, no, I want to be challenging for cups. I want to be in all the competitions. But if it's to the detriment of your league to try to stretch your injured squad in 4 different competitions at once, is it worth it? This is why we're having this discussion right now, because there's so many moving parts, so many factors. It's very, very subjective, right, on what people want to prioritize and what people say to push forward. It's very easy just to say, no, fight for them all. But when you've got like the injuries we had last year, is it realistic? Is it fair to put that pressure on there? I don't know. The league is the ultimate test, though, right? Can you put together a run of wins? Can you maximize the points you take at home? Remember, one of the expectations I had was to get Old Trafford a fortress again, right? I think we had like 8 wins, 8 losses there last season. Like, I want us to get back to, this place is a fortress. This place is a cauldron. Welcome to the jungle. Anyone who shows up at Old Trafford, like, it's 11 men versus like 80,000 as far as I'm concerned, because I want Old Trafford crowd to be bumping. I want that Stretford end to be loud. I want the players to have that dog in them and see that red mist when we're hosting other teams at Old Trafford. That's what I want. Can you go away and steal points off of other sides when you go away from home? That was another one of my expectations in the league, right? We do not travel well. We just spoke about that in yesterday's video. Go ahead and watch that if you haven't yet, about our Europa League draw. And just the fact that we've got to travel far, and we can't even go to Brighton and not look knackered. I don't know how we're going to do when we got to go to Greece, Turkey. We're not going to Greece. Got to go to Turkey, Romania. Like, that's not going to be fun. Can you bloody the noses of some of your top rivals, even when they're miles ahead of you in terms of a rebuild and just quality in their squad, right? Can we go away to Anfield and get a result? Can we go to the Etihad and get a result? Can we go to the Emirates and get a result? I mean, Lingard's not here anymore, so we no longer have the Emirates as his dancing floor. So can we do that? That, to me, is a big, big test of where you are in these things. Can you bounce right back from dropping points at like even at home one week to turn around and go on a run and really take out that frustration on the next few opponents that you have in the league, to show that that drop point was just a stumbling block and not a sign of the norm, right? That was the outlier. That wasn't the norm. Danny B says, play most 21 League Cup with a sprinkle of the mercenaries. Yeah. So again, the league is kind of arguably the bigger litmus test, right? You're just going to have, it's an endurance run. I've heard some people even say, like, you can fluke a trophy, but you can't fluke the league. I think Zinedine Zidane would argue maybe you can't fluke a trophy. Like I said, people like to say Zidane inherited a good squad at Madrid, and he did get a good squad, but he didn't really buy any stars. And you like, I don't care how good a squad is. No one else wins 3 Champions League in a row. I mean, that's a big deal. Nobody was doing it before he got to Madrid. Nobody's done it since. There's something to be said. And to be fair to Zidane, so I have criticized Zidane's kind of failure to utilize the squad, but at the same time, what I like about Zidane is it was very simple. You play your best players in their best positions to their best abilities, and that's what you do. It's very simple. In the league, though, I mean, you can get all your points against sides lower than you, and if you can manage to take some points off the big six, you have a pretty much guaranteed shot at top four, if not at challenging for the title, right? And that's really where United should be, right? Again, context is key, as it's unfair to demand that we win the league when Ten Hag is entering his third season. This is his third season. Really, this is his first season under new ownership, new structure. He's got a whole new coaching staff, whole new structure, all that stuff. So there are some factors in there that we have to consider. Ineos have just only begun to correct the last decade of decay that's been caused by the Glazers since Fergie left, and they pretty much ruled the roost. And if you're trying to make up a 20-point deficit on teams like Liverpool, Arsenal, City, who just they've had those same managers for a long time, they've got much better squads, and those squads have been together for a long time. Like, that's not going to happen overnight. It's probably not going to happen in a couple of years. But still, all that being said, this is the nature of the United job. This is the demand of taking over at Manchester United. The pressure at United is higher than any other club almost in world football, barring maybe like Madrid, maybe Bayern Munich. There's no job in the Premier League that has as much pressure on it than Manchester United. And I don't just mean about living up to the badge, living up to the history, living up to all those that came before. I mean just the pressure also of just the way the media is all over us from day in, day out, 24/7. The media were all over Ten Hag before his contract ink was even dry. That's the kind of pressure you don't get at other clubs. And it takes a special kind of manager to deal with that as well. We saw Louis van Gaal win the FA Cup and he got sacked the next day. So again, the standards, the pressure are there. There are a lot of fans who like to see us kind of return to that level of ruthlessness when it comes to managers. I mean, Madrid do it. Bayern did it. I mean, Thomas Tuchel was the first manager at Bayern Munich for like a decade not to win the Bundesliga, and he was done. Even in spite of fans filling out a petition to keep him there, he was gone. That's the kind of standards I think that a lot of United fans they're pointing at and saying, you see what they're doing, you see what Madrid are doing. Like they're like Madrid. You could like in Madrid are even more ruthless in the sense that you could win La Liga and do poorly in Champions League, and you're still going to get sacked. Like that's the kind of standards that a lot of United fans really want us to get to. It's insane. And so again, it's not me saying what's right, what is right and what is wrong. It's me putting all this out there so you guys can kind of let me know your thoughts. Because there was a time, as a United fan, there was a time when United were winning the league like 2, even 3 years in a row. Hell, there was a time when it was almost a given before the first opening whistle of the season that the league was United's to lose. That's where we used to be, if you remember, in like the late like 2008, 2009s. It was that 2008, 2009 side was like just cold as ice. You're talking Tevez, Rooney, Ronaldo. You got these guys just bombing up and down the pitch. Park Ji-sung just putting and busting the gut all over the pitch. Like that was a very, very good side. Vidic, like who can forget Vidic and Rio? Arguably the best defensive duo in the history of the league. What a time to be a United fan. It's been a while since we felt that way though. But again, that's down to the Glazers, not Ten Hag. So what I think I will like a lot of United fans to do is let's try not to put a decade of failure and mismanagement, not trying to put all that blame and all that pressure on a guy who's only been here like 2 years. Seems a little unrealistic. Yeah, Nick says Rio, Vidic. That what I wouldn't give to have Rio and Vidic back in their prime. Like just not even just like I'm like, oh, we're gonna win everything, but I feel like, and I've said this before, whether it's like Keno or even Rooney to some extent, like football needs players like that. We need players who are just gonna like Vidic. I don't think I've ever seen a guy make a tackle that wasn't just a 2-foot slide from like 10 yards away that just completely took somebody out, man. Like that guy did not care, gave zero fucks when it came to putting in a tackle, and I'm here for it. We see it a little bit with Licha. Licha seems a little watered down this season. I don't know what's going on with him. We're going to see what happens there. But squad depth is important, as Danny was saying earlier. Quality and squad depth. Squad depth is important if you want to compete on multiple fronts throughout the season. It's a big demand on your players. You got 4 different competitions going on at one time throughout the season. And then you've got international breaks thrown in there, which I can't stand. And then you had the stupid ass season like a couple years ago where we threw a World Cup in the middle of it because that was a great idea, right? Come on. Injuries can really make or break those priorities as well. They can make or break, your league finish. They can make or break your cup chances as well. The injuries do play a key role. In Ten Hag's first season, we went to 2 finals. We got to the Europa League quarterfinals, and all that was on top of that 38-game league. That's a lot of matches. That was like 70 some odd matches that we played in his first season. That's his first season as a United manager. Like that, if you can't be impressed by that, like getting to that many finals, quarterfinals, and getting 3rd place and winning a trophy, like the football is not for you if you can't sit back and applaud that. Danny says, I hope we get on a good unbeaten run. The fan base needs to be united. Yeah, and I think that's an unbeaten run would be nice. I don't remember what our best kind of run was under Ten Hag. I should have looked that up maybe, but I know we had that monster one under Ollie when he took over. Jose had a couple of those as well. So we were fortunate to not have as many injuries in Ten Hag's first season. I think that also he didn't have a whole lot of his players yet. We were still rolling around with a lot of older players. Luke Shaw managed to stay fit that season, if you remember, and he was actually in very good form that season. Rashford had the season of his life that season, which helps. Our defense was near perfect. Remember David De Gea got the Golden Glove because we kept all those clean sheets. And then obviously luck and good performances went in our favor for sure. So we just don't talk about the FA Cup final that season because we all want to forget about that. But last season, though, of course, we saw how those injuries left us light in so many positions. It was a struggle to get players fit. It was a struggle to keep them fit. And we had defense that just wasn't familiar. I mean, our most used center back, remember we talked about it was like Varane and Evans or something, and they only were together for like 6 matches. Or maybe it was Maguire. I don't remember. I just talked about it the other day. Sometimes this is going to happen. I'm going to put stuff in here for these videos. I'm going to remember it. And then it's like when I was in my master's program, like you'd study for something and you remember it. And then as soon as you had your final, it's like, I don't have space for that anymore in my brain. Some of these statistics and things, that's kind of the way it works. Like I don't need to remember lymphatic systems and stuff in the brain anymore. I don't need to remember that anymore. I'm not going to be going into neurobiology. It's all good. Took 1 class on it. We're done. Also last season, so we had a lot of nervous new signings. If you remember, Andre Onana did not look confident, especially in the Champions League last season. And then those injuries and that shakiness in the back four because Licha was out as well. We conceded a lot of stupid goals last season that did cost us the Champions League. It did cost us a lot of drop points in the league. We dropped some vital points in the league just because of stupidity, lack of focus, switching off, not seeing out games. Simple cutback goals killed us last season. We finished 8th, obviously with a negative goal difference. We all remember that. Again, I'd argue that the injuries and just the exhaustion of having to play so much football without rotation and without rest had a lot to do with the league last season. It is an endurance test. It is rough. It's like a stub toe or a splinter or anything, even just rolling your ankle doesn't seem like a lot in and of itself if you just got to like walk to the mailbox or something. But if you have to go on like an hour-long hike and you rolled your ankle, it's going to feel a lot worse, even if it's not a super serious injury. And again, it's just the lack of rotation, the lack of rest for a lot. I mean, Bruno only got rested for 2 matches or when he was injured. Concentration is the first thing to go when fatigue sets in. And there's no coincidence that we conceded so many stoppage time goals last season as a result. You get to that 80th minute mark when you haven't really been rotated or rested, your concentration is going to go. We dropped 17 points last season from winning positions alone in the league. And every goal that we conceded in that statistic that cost us those points came in the last 10 minutes of those matches. That is switching off. That's a lack of focus. That's fatigue. That is anything you want to call it. We more than doubled our previous record of stoppage time goals conceded last season up until that point. Tired bodies means tired minds, and it was on full display. It's just what it is. The problem is, the worry is that we're already seeing it this season. We saw it against Brighton. We switched off in the dying minutes. We could have got out of there with a point. We switched off. Another stupid goal. Nobody closing people down. People falling asleep. And we conceded a late goal, and it cost us. Danny says he still doesn't look confident and losing hope in Onana. Give him till Christmas to know where he's at. Onana's shot stopping is an issue for me. And I've said many times why I think he doesn't look comfortable in the box. He's too big. He's too muscular. He can't get down fast. He doesn't get across his line fast. And it's so odd to me, too, because for such a big guy, you'd think, okay, maybe he's going to be a commander in the area. He's not very good. He's not coordinated. And it's because of how big he is. He was like Lukaku. Remember when we signed Lukaku, the dude probably needed to drop like 20 pounds of muscle, slim down a little bit, so he could be a little bit more coordinated, a little bit more agile, move around a little. Muscle weighs a lot more than just even fat. And so when you're carrying all that around like Onana is, it's why he's like a lot of these low shots to the near post are just like he can't get down to him. He doesn't get over fast enough. And I think he really needs to chill out in that regard. Someone tell him go on a diet, stop hitting the gym, and just kind of get down to like De Gea almost, or even just not De Gea, like Oblak or something. Just trim down a little bit, Onana. But he doesn't. What's frustrating me too about Onana while we're on the topic is he is good on the ball. He is composed on the ball. And he does have a much better distribution than what we've seen. For some reason, it's just players come to United and it's like they pass through this portal and everything we thought we were getting from them, just they leave it behind. It's like a metal detector. It's a little embarrassing because we've seen Onana play some very, very bad balls out to like the fullbacks time and time again. He has it in him to play a good ball. We've seen him pick out Dalot and Rashford and Garnacho, like putting that ball on a dime. We've seen it happen, but I think maybe it's just a matter of rust. And it's like when you're not doing it enough, it's very easy to not have it dialed in. So we're not utilizing that very much. It's like when you have someone come off the bench and their first job is to take a free kick or a corner. It's probably not going to be very good because they haven't dialed it in. They haven't had the repetition just in a match to put a couple of them and kind of hone in on it. And we don't do it enough with Onana, so maybe it's just the fact that he's never really fully dialed in. I don't know. I'm not a manager. I don't know these things. Danny says he needs to use his feet, stop low shots. De Gea was great. Yeah, De Gea, like I would often ask, like when we'd watch De Gea play, some things, the first thing out of my mouth would be, he knows he can use his hands, right? Like De Gea was always just kicking these balls away and just like he would like sit down, but he would just kick his foot out and the ball would just. I remember that one match against Arsenal. I don't know how many saves he made that match, but there was that one play where he must have stopped like 3 shots in like point blank range, like in a matter of like 4 seconds. De Gea was very good in his prime, probably the best shot stopper I've ever seen in his prime, but his prime peaked for a couple seasons and then it just started to wane. And De Gea's form always dropped whenever the contract talks came back up. De Gea is not a very confident guy. He's not a very outspoken guy, which is funny because the dude loves like heavy metal music, I guess. And I think that it was his confidence was always a little too easily shaken whenever the contract stuff came up, because I've noticed that every single time that his contract was coming to an end or it's time to renew, his form would dip. So it is what it is. On top of the injuries, on top of that kind of stuff, Ten Hag's team selection and his tactics at times, like they didn't help our chances last season either. So that's why the league is a big measure, because you need to be able to kind of think ahead, couple moves ahead. You need to be able to handle that and put together a string of wins. Persisting with Antony didn't help. Not utilizing Ahmad more when he was fit, that definitely didn't help. I've said many times, trying to play out from the back with Maguire, with Varane, with Evans, that didn't help. That did cost us points on several occasions. It definitely cost us goals. Everybody played a role last season in where we ended up. Everybody did. And maybe it's just a therapist in me, but like I believe everybody who's involved in where we were deserves a chance to play a part in correcting it. If you play a role in where we end up, then you should be able to be given an opportunity to play a role in making it better. Again, maybe that's just a therapist in me. I don't know. But if it were Ten Hag's first season at United and he had finished 8th and won the FA Cup, I don't think any of us would be as critical, right? Probably not. I think the fact that it was the second season probably didn't help. It felt like a big step backwards, really. And I think maybe that had a lot to do with the fact that maybe Ten Hag just overachieved in his first season based on his first season in the league, what he walked into, just the fact that the mess that is United, but also that doesn't even consider what happened the year before with Ollie and Ralph Ragnick and all that. I think given all that, what Ten Hag accomplished his first season probably was way, way overachieving. And I think that the second season was probably a little lower than we would have wanted, but it was probably, in the middle. Like you would have expected Ten Hag to probably get like fifth or maybe sixth in his first season and maybe not win anything. The fact that he got third and got a really good win percentage, one of the best win percentages that we've had in a while, and got a trophy, that's a lot. Ineos do seem like they've taken a lot of the last decade into consideration. It seems like they've taken a lot of the injuries into consideration as well. And again, the way the club's been run for a decade, but I don't think that grace period is going to last much longer, at least not much longer beyond this season. Like we talked about earlier, managers have won trophies at United and still been sacked based on league position, based on performances, all that stuff. Ten Hag is going to need to show us something, especially in the league this season, because I don't just think that an FA Cup will be enough to save his job this season without a top 4 finish to go along with it. In fact, I'd probably even amend my expectations and say I at least expect top 4 and a trophy, whatever that looks like. Raja, hey man, welcome to the channel, bud. Yeah, you're right. We did have a different owner again, but I think the point is, Ineos are probably going to want a little bit more. I think that Ten Hag is getting his squad together. We're going to give him a little time to get everybody fit, to get everybody on the same page, and then we're going to have to see. But I think it's going to be less about where we finish to some degree, and more about like we've been talking about. We need to start seeing something on the pitch. We need to start seeing some synchronicity. We need to start seeing some fluidity, some tactics. We need to start seeing some, like, I don't want to call it dominance, like we're going to blow everybody out of the water 7-0, but I want to see something recognizable to where the system is in full flow. The players are picking up on it. It's effective. It's getting results. We've seen it here and there in glimpses with some of the triangles. Obviously, the playing out from the back. It's never a thing with Ten Hag that all the pieces have aligned quite well at the same time, whether it's fit players, whether it's his players, whether it's this, that, or the other thing. It's always something that's a little off. It's like 3 legs to a stool, and one of them's always been a little shorter. As you keep trying to even it out, you always get one a little shorter, and it's just not working. So winning the league sends a message to the rest of the competition in your domestic league, right? It says that we pushed harder, we persevered, and we wanted it more than you. And it's not even just about finishing in the top 4 necessarily. It's about the message that it sends that you've endured the 38 matches and you've fought your way to Champions League football. That sends a message that you can accomplish it. I think, too, that the endurance and the effective tactics that it takes to finish strong in your domestic league, they have a trickle-down effect when it comes to cup competitions as well. If you can sustain that, and it'll become effective over any competition. When your tactics are impactful, when the players are picking up on it and it's showing in the match, that will automatically start spreading, and you'll put together wins, you'll get results, and then the trophies will come. I think when you can sustain that over a season, the trophies are going to happen, if not now, before long. Those are just my thoughts, though. I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong here. Like I said, I think it's fair to demand more from Ten Hag in the league this season, especially after last season. We can't have another 8th place finish last season. Like, I even think, like Danny is saying, if by Christmas we're anywhere near mid-table, I think it's squeaky bum time for Ten Hag, to quote another former Dutch United manager. But I also don't think I think it's unfair to expect us to win the league. I don't think it's unfair to expect us not to be mid-table by Christmas. I also don't think it's unfair to ask for at least some sort of a domestic trophy. I don't think it's unfair to expect at least a semi. If you can get to quarterfinals in the Europa League your first season, you should be able to get to the semifinals with your players now. By the time the Europa League is up and kicking, we should have players back fit. Højlund should be back soon. Shaw should be back soon. Mount, maybe, I don't know. De Ligt, Mizraoui, Ugarte, all these guys will be kind of in the team training, get some minutes. We're going to see what happens there. Oh, what do you guys have to say? What is more important to you? I haven't even fully just straight up asked you yet. What do you think is more important, our league form and finish, or lifting some trophies? Would you take sixth or seventh and the FA Cup? Would you take sixth or seventh and the Europa League? Would you take fourth place and no trophies? You know, it does mean Champions League football. We know that that's a big deal. Ineos are going to love that because of the finances. I'm not going to celebrate fourth place like Arsenal fans do, because to me, that's not anything. I wouldn't like just getting Champions League football and having no trophies personally. I think if we're in those competitions and we've shown that we can win them, we should, like, the expectation, in my opinion, is to defend the trophy. Right now, I look at us as FA Cup defending champions, just like City are defending league champions. City's last season, to me, City was a failure compared to what they did the season before. You can't go from winning a treble to just getting the league. To me, that's a failure. That's a huge step backwards by those standards. But no one cares. Everyone just wants to be like, oh, they're fine. What do you guys got to say? Rajat says both are important to win and look at. Nick says Europa. Rajat says we need third. I'm going to turn this down. This is very bright. Oh, that's so much better. It's been such a long day. I did not get great sleep last night. It's just been a long day. Just got late. It just felt like one of those days where you just you're moving slow. It's a late start. It's kind of cold out. So I'm just like, whatever. Nick says Europa. Rajat says third. Nick says, or if without trophies, at least finish in top 4. Danny says, just want to see consistency, top 5 and a final. So it almost sounds like you're taking that kind of form and finish approach. Raja says, if we don't win anything and get third or fourth, who cares? If we don't win anything and we get it's hard, because let's say somehow we get the 5th place, gets to Champions League. What if we got 5th and we still qualify for Champions League, but like we didn't win anything else? What would that mean? I mean, it's not top 4, but it's Champions League football. Is it just important to get Champions League football? Again, we don't have a dog in that fight in terms of the financial boost of Champions League football. All we get as fans is the pride of knowing that our club is competing with the best of the best in the Champions League, where we should be, right? That's pretty much what that means for us as fans. I could care less about the financial boost that you get from being in the Champions League. It doesn't really matter to me. We don't see any of that as fans. But I want us to be in the Champions League. Now, the question is, how well do you think we do in the Champions League? Because we got knocked out in the group stage last season. This Europa League draw isn't necessarily straightforward. We should be at least qualifying. The bookie, the Bet365, has us second favorites to win the whole thing. It has us finishing second out of our league phase. But we know from recent history that it's not a given, just that we're going to do very well. Raja says, play good football. Yeah, I think, good is subjective, right? Because what is good, what is good for you might not be good for me, or good for Danny, or good for anybody else. So good is, what do you mean by good football? What does that mean? What do you want to see on the pitch? And try to keep in mind that it's not always necessarily about what you want tactics-wise, but what we know about tenhag tactics. We want to see some pressing. We want to see a good playing out from the back. Statistically speaking, playing out from the back the way Ten Hag wants is supposed to be much better in terms of just maintaining possession, but it is very player reliant. And last year it killed us. This year we started off a little shaky, so we're going to see how it goes. The thing was, when you sit back against a team that's playing out from the back, it kind of defeats the purpose of playing out from the back, like Liverpool did. So it's interesting. Nick says, Man United need a winger and a midfielder that can retain the ball when needed and can control the tempo of the game. Well, some would argue that Sancho does that. I did my video the other day. I did a little scouting report on Johan Bakayoko at PSV Eindhoven, who is my dream right-wing target. So, Nick, if you want to go learn a little bit more about Bakayoko, go check out that video if you haven't yet. Did you get your shirt yet, Nick? Raja says, go improve with work rate off the ball. We were seeing a little bit of that in preseason. We were seeing a little bit of that pressing early to start the season. I think Mount obviously was, praised for being a very pressing midfielder, kind of playing in that 9-10 role. Obviously, we lost him, and he's injured again. And so Xerxes can do it. I think that it's hard. Zirkzee, he even self has said he's like a 9.5. Zirkzee looked really good. Was that yesterday for the Netherlands? Obviously scored that goal. He looked really good with his link-up play. I'll tell you who else was really good yesterday. And I'm not, this just is going to sound like recency bias. It's not. Tijani Reinders. Dude is like an unstoppable force. I did a scouting report on Reinders when he was still at AZ Alkmaar over a year ago. So this would have been April of 2023 or so, around that time. I did a scouting report on Reinders when he was at Alkmaar. The dude is a beast. And it was hard to know his role. There was even rumors that he was, that Milan were looking to sell him already. But I think that his role is going to look a little differently for them now. Reinders would be, if Bruno was going to the Saudi League, Reinders would be somebody who I would be like, yeah, let's go get him. He's very, very good midfielder. Nick, no, sure, yeah, no worries about it. It'll be there soon. I know Danny got his. Rajat will be like Anthony. No, you're talking about Bakayoko. Now, Bakayoko's numbers are just incredible. And like I said in the video, the bonus is Bakayoko has worked with Ruud both at the academy level and at PSV's first team level when Ruud was coaching there. So he's got that connection. He actually credited, if you go watch the video, he credited Ruud for turning him into a lethal finisher in the box. He went from not really getting involved a whole lot in the box to trusting himself, to making better decisions when to shoot, when to lay the ball off, and he's got a lot of goals. His numbers from his first season to when Ruud showed up, like doubled, more than doubled. I'm not saying that's all Ruud, but I think that Bakayoko has shown, and I think he could be the next big thing to kind of come out of PSV. We don't have great luck with wingers that we get from the Dutch league. Memphis didn't really work out so well for us. Anthony obviously has been a little hit or miss. Madueke at Chelsea can be kind of hit or miss. So you never know. It is a big step up from the Eredivisie, and not every player is going to be able to handle it. But you can say the same for any player going to any club in any league. It's just, you never know. Nick says maybe it takes a few more days for the shirt. Yeah, maybe. Hopefully. Let me know, bud, when you get it. Rajat says, wow, that Bruno. I did not watch any. I did watch, what did I watch today? I watched the Denmark match, mostly because I was trying to watch the Serbian midfielder who plays for Torino, Ivan Ilic. I watched him a couple times last season. Really good little midfielder. Raja says, how is Bakayoko different to Anthony here? Both came out of Dutch divisions. I mean, Bakayoko, I'd say he's a little bit more of a assertive. Anthony is a little bit, he slows things down a little bit. Bakayoko is his ball progression, his carries, his shots, his chance creation. It's hard to put into detail without bringing up the statistics like on the computer right now. But if you go and watch the video and then you want to compare him to Anthony, if you go to FB Ref and look up Bakayoko and then look up Anthony, you can actually do an overlay like of a graph, a diagram of comparing the two, so you can see it a little more clearly. Anthony was very good at Ajax. There's no way around it. He was very, very good. I think that Bakayoko looks more of, the best way I can say it, he looks more of a Premier League profile of winger. He looks more like an Elise than Anthony does. So if you look at like the way Elise played at Crystal Palace last season and compare that to like Anthony, Elise will be more in line with what you're going to get from Bakayoko. Gets the ball high up the pitch, drives the ball into the area, and then has a really good shot, has a really good pass. He's actually one of the better midfield or better wingers for like his Champions League contributions as well. I think he was only bettered for like shot creating. I think in the Champions League he was only bettered by like Foden, Rodri, and I forget who else now. Go watch the video. It's all in the video. Like I said, when stuff gets put down in the video, I forget it. It's like phone numbers. I don't need to remember phone numbers when I put in my phone because they're in my phone. So a lot of that stuff's just off my head. Oh, Nick's taking off working. See you later, man. Thanks for stopping by. Raja says, yep, can't how they feel with the Prem ball. It's just not every player's cut out for every league. It just is what it is. Nothing you can do about that. And I think for me, it's always been less about the league than it is about the manager, because you can say, like, you can look at like West Ham, and under David Moyes, West Ham were a lot different than they are under Julian Lopetegui. Aston Villa under Unai Emery are a lot different than they were a couple of years ago. So it's always about manager and system before it's about league, in my opinion, because the Premier League was still the Premier League, like before and after Pep Guardiola arrived. The Premier League was still the Premier League before and after like Jurgen Klopp arrived. The league changes because the managers and the systems and just the football change. It's not like it's just 80s kick and rush. Everybody's got to be big. Everybody's got to be tall. Everybody's got to be fast anymore. It's not the way it works anymore. Some of the best players in this league over the last decade haven't been the biggest, haven't been the fastest, haven't been the most powerful. Guys like David Silva, for instance, come to mind. Bernardo Silva comes to mind. Juan Mata, Chelsea's player of the year a couple of times, not the biggest guy around. And so it is what it is. Ashworth, Danny says, Ashworth might be watching your video, Sean. I said get Patrick Dorgu in the spring and mentioned Franco Mastantuono and Nippon, and I'll be very happy if we get all through those targets, maybe 70 mil. Yeah, I did see that we were linked with Dorgu again. That's another video that I was working on earlier today that I've got a lot of work still to do. Another scouting report video, not on Dorgu alone, because we already mentioned him, because I think we were linked with him last season as well. So there's probably something in an older video that talks a little bit about Dorgu. But I have another video coming up for left back targets, because I do think that's going to be a priority for us next summer. And so I have a couple of targets that I'm going to be breaking down and looking at a little bit more in depth. I know we talked a little bit about left backs the other day, but that was like a January thing. This is an overall, like, we need a new left back. I can't trust Luke Shaw. If we're going to do something next summer, which is easier to buy in the summer than January, these are who I'm going to go for. These are the first team ready, move the needle, like level us up kind of left backs that I want to look at. And so hopefully finish that up today or tomorrow and do that one. But so keep a lookout for that one. But yeah, I did see that we're looking at Dorgu. It worries me though a little bit, Danny, that we're looking at your Kirkes, your Aitonoris, your Dorgus, because these are all young players, which kind of worries me. That to me, that almost is an indicator that they are seen as an understudy for Shaw. Plus, I don't see the need to get another teenage left back when we've got Harry Amos, who's literally in and around the first team now. He's in the Europa League squad. He's in the match day squads for Premier League. It's a little weird to me. Raja says Bakayoko more direct. That's the word I'm looking for. Sorry. Thank you. Direct. He's more direct. He's assertive. He's direct. He's just intense. Danny says he can use both feet and beat a man. He's similar to Doku, but more composed. Yeah, it's hard to put in words. Bakayoko, he's like it says in the thumbnail from the video, he's the dream when it comes to right wing options. If we sold Anthony, so I know that Real Betis wanted to come in for a loan on like deadline day. We turned that down. I did see some rumors. Don't know how good they are. I think it was coming from like caught offside or something that Newcastle were interested in looking at Anthony. Don't know how legit that is. They were looking at like 40 million was the price. If someone offers you 40 million from Anthony right now, you bite their hand off and run and take it and go get Bakayoko. Like I said in my video, PSV have sold some of their top players in January. They sold Gakpo in January. We can go get Bakayoko in January, man. I'm telling you right now. Raja says, we'll love when we can get wingers like Pedro Neto or Trincao. Trincao, I remember Trincao when he was in the Portuguese league, and then he came to Wolves and went to Barca. I didn't really ever look. I had high hopes for Trincao. He seems a little what's the word? Timid, not as assertive, not as direct, not as intense as some of the other wingers that I've seen. He's good. He's not as good as I was hoping Trincao would be, but I do remember him. Where did he play when he was in the Portuguese league? Man, that feels like so long. It was probably like 4 years ago. Raja says, who is Nipan? Creator Neon Cat or something. Nipan is Sphere Nipan. He's his little teenager midfielder who plays for Rosenborg. We played them in preseason, but he is doing really big things. We've been linked with, we are interested in, the player himself has said in recent interviews, like, United are interested in me. He's in no hurry. He's very young, but the dude has already got like 5 goals, 5 assists in their league. He had a hat trick the other week. Like, he's a very, very good. He reminds me a lot of Odegaard in the way he plays, and his rhythm of passing, especially in and around the final third, it throws people off because you think he's got to take another step to get the pass away, but he's like Odegaard. He'll just pass it on this off rhythm and catch everybody off, which is really, really, really world-class technique. And so if we get a hold of Nipan, which I would have liked us to lock him up in the summer and then just basically loaned him to Rosenborg until we need him. That would have been the way to do it. But he was one I listed in my January transfer window video the other day, so go check that out. Rajat says, give Luke Shaw till the end of his current deal. At least try to keep him for depth. Know about his injury history. There is no depth with Luke Shaw. He's only been fit 50% of the matches he's been here for at United in a decade. We can't count on him. So we will see. It sounds like he and Malacia are both in the Europa League squad along with Harry Amas. So it sounds like maybe they're going to be ready sooner. Who knows? I just don't like the idea of planning a future around Luke Shaw, because there is no future with Luke Shaw because he's never fit. So come back and watch my next video. I'll look at some left backs. You guys let me know what you think. I've spoken about a couple of them already. There's some new names in there. Some of the names we have been linked with as well, but these are left backs that I think could come in and literally challenge Shaw for that spot, some of whom are dream signings, some of whom are just players that are lesser known. I think they could do a job. So Danny B says, Kokshu crossed with Odegaard. He reminds me of, I love Orkun Kokshu. I loved him when he was at Feyenoord, and then he went to Benfica, which means he's probably going to cost 100 million if anybody wants him. He is very, very good. He gets around the pitch. I love Orkun Kokshu. He's just a good midfielder. So I'm going to get going here in a couple seconds, but I want to just, again, prioritizing cups versus prioritizing the league. They're both kind of related, because I do think that being successful in the league means you're implementing good tactics, your players are picking up on it, and you're sustaining something. And when you can do that, I think it will trickle down on the cup competitions. But I think the big difference for us in terms of what we need to prioritize is going to have to do with fitness and injuries. If we can keep players fit like we had in Ten Hag's first season and not like last season, I think we have, I don't say we have the depth, like we're totally fine. Like we can almost field two different quality squads. We're not anywhere near that, but I do think we would have enough depth to be able to handle that, especially in the early stages of like the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup. And maybe in some of these, if we can do really well to start the Europa League, like we were talking about, because we do have some tough matches to start in there. We've got 20, and then we've got Porto, and we've got Fenerbahce, so some tough ones. If we can somehow manage to scrape by with some wins, if we can get 2 wins out of those first 3 matches, I will be happy, because it's better than I would think we would do. If we can start strong on the Thursday Night Cup, I think that allows us to rotate a little bit more, but we're going to see. It's a whole new format. It is a lot of travel, so it's going to be difficult. Raja says, why not trigger Angel Gomez from Lille? Isn't Angel Gomez entering the last year of his contract right now? So he's kind of going to be up for grabs. It would be kind of an interesting little bit of a poetic thing to have him come back after he left, right? And I don't think it was anything personal when he left. I think he wanted to play, and I think it was Mourinho who just didn't think he was ready. So he left, went to go play. He's been doing a good job at Lille. He's still very young too. And what is it, only like 20, 22, 23. So he could definitely come back, but we'll see what happens with Angel Gomez. But in any case, that is going to do it for me, you guys. Let me know your thoughts. League, cups, what should we prioritize this year? What should Ten Hag really, as far as his job is concerned, what should he really be focused on improving? Is it going to be enough to get an FA Cup and finish outside of the top 4? Is that going to be enough to save his job? What do you think Ineos are thinking on their end? Let me know your thoughts. If you haven't yet done so, like the video. We are on the road to 2K. We were nearly at 1,300 subscribers when I started. Let me check real quick before I go, see if we must somehow manage to make that while I've been live, because that would be super cool. Oh, we did, y'all. We are at 1,302 subscribers. Look at you guys. Give yourself a golf clap for that. 1,302 subscribers. Thank you guys for doing that. Appreciate that. We're on the road to 2K. I will see you guys on the next one. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, everybody. Cheers, Danny, Rajat, Nick. Have fun at work, my guy. Who else was in here earlier? Somebody was in here earlier. Patrick. Thanks for stopping by again, Patrick. I will see you guys on the next one. Until then, enjoy your night, and I will talk to you later. Bye.